Hello everyone, hope you're all doing well. Look, I'm determined to help you realize how you're put together, because I believe the answer to OCD and all subsets of OCD, HOCD or whatnot is right under your nose. Beside all the depth of understanding that OCD comes from anxiety, and we've discussed all these things, I want to bring it a little bit closer to you, make it a little bit easier so you don't have to go so deep to figure it out. I just want to make it so simple for you, if I can. Work with me here. The answer is right under your nose. I think the answer is where you first identify how you're put together and what is what and what are the roles of the components that it's been used to put you together, to create you. And I think you have a misunderstanding. Somehow we all have had the misunderstanding of not knowing really what are the roles of each part of us, and instead somehow we got duped into believing that one of the equipments that has been used to put us together is actually us. Like the part that we are using to create ourselves, we think that part, which is my part, a piece of me, is the whole of me. And that's the problem. Let's look at it together. Look, the answer to this is to identify who are we? Which one of these whole entity that you see, the physical part and the mental part and all that, which one is me? Which is doing what? What is the role of each one of these components, apparatuses, equipments? Look, if I ask you, like if you're sitting in front of each other and ask you, and show you your finger and say, what is this? What do you say? If you ask me, what is this? I'll say, see if this is what you say as well. My finger. I say, this is my finger. If you ask me, what is this? I say, this is my ears. My ear. Ears. If you ask me, what is this? I said, this is my forearm. This is my arm. So if you ask me, what is this? I say, this is my head. And if you say, what is that? What it is in your head? I say, that's my brain. And if you ask me, what is this, and you point toward my foot, I say that's my foot, or that's my leg, or that's my knee. If you notice, the key word here was what? My finger, my ear, my nose, my head, my brain, my knee, my arm, my hand. Okay, if these are all belonging to me, mine, my, where is the owner? Where is me? Which one? Where is me? Because if this is my brain, then what is me? So it's the brain that makes thoughts. Why would it then confuse me to think that what this that belongs to me does is me? When I say it's my brain, my hand, my nose, my eyes, my ear, then why is it that what brain produces, I consider what brain produced, which is my brain, is me? while what apparatus produces the thought, the brain belongs to me. Where is me? Who is me? Now suddenly I'm saying what thought brain makes, I think that's me. How could the production of something that is an equipment and part of what I'm made out of to be the whole of me? This is why it's important for you to understand. Production of the brain is thoughts. Thoughts are production of the brain. Brain belongs to you. Where is you? The production of the brain is not you. That's a production of something that belongs to you. It's like saying, pointing towards, I don't know, my intestine, say, what is that? I said, it's my intestine. So obviously, what does it do? It goes to the bathroom and poos out. It produces poo. Is that poo me? Because I said, my intestine. So what the intestine has produced is me? You say no, naturally. So how could what brain produces, which is thought, you think it's you? So when an intrusive thought shows up, why would you think the intrusive thought is pertaining you? Is you? Any intrusive thought. Pedophilia, harming someone, harming yourself, harm OCD, pedophilia OCD, responsibility OCD, homosexual OCD, if you're heterosexual, HOCD. All subsets of OCD are thought-based. And thought is production of the brain. Why would what brain produces would suddenly be referred to or thought of as it is you, when you are the one who owns the brain, owns the nose, owns the hand, owns the heart, kidney, liver? These belong to you. But why would you ever call them you? You don't say, I'm kidney. Say, my kidney, but you don't call the kidney to be you, right? Otherwise you would say, what is this? You would say, it kidney's brain. It's not. You say, it's my brain. So where is you? Okay, hang on here. I'll shut this phone off and I'll continue shortly. So we're trying to see, how did it happen? How did we end up thinking or being duped in thinking that a part of me is me? You don't say, this is me. You don't say, this fist is me. You don't say, your shoulder. You don't say, it's me. You don't say your nose is me. You say it's my nose, my eyes, my shoulder, my hand, my brain. So whatever my nose produces, it's not me, because nose belongs to me, but it's not me. So what it produces cannot be me either. And the same thing for the intestines, and same thing for the brain. Whatever the brain produces, it's not me, because I say it's my brain. I don't say it's me. You say it's my brain. What it produces is also not me, because itself is not me. How could what it produces could be me? If you understand that, then you begin to understand that you are separate from your equipments. You are separate from the fragments that have been used to put you together. The way you've been created, the way you've been born, everything about you, all the pieces that have been put together, that have made you to become you. Not one of them by itself could be considered you, but they work for you. They're your equipment, they're your fragments, they're pieces of you. Brain is also a fragment of you, a piece of you, part of you, equipment that works for you to make this whole entity function. But what it produces is not you. So where is you? Let's consider that to help ourselves get rid ourselves of OCD, intrusive thoughts of all kinds, including HOCD, which many heterosexuals around the world are suffering from, are hit by, and since they really don't understand that it's anxiety driven, it's meaningless, but because they haven't understood that thought is not them, they're not thought, you're not thought, thought is not you, you're not the brain, brain is not you, whatever brain conjures up in the form of thought, intrusive thoughts, they get bamboozled. They think it has anything to do with them. It could represent them. If the brain intrusive thoughts is created that you're not the gender that you are, that you've been living in denial, that you're going to be gay, these are thoughts created by the brain. But you somehow have been duped to believe that what brain conjures up is the you. Which brings the question, how could you then say it's my brain when you are product of brain? How could you say it's my intestine when you, or do you say you're product of the intestine? You don't say, but you've been sold the bill to think that what comes to mind, which you're totally oblivious of it, you've got nothing to do with it, because brain is an equipment, is independent system. It does its own things because it's designed to do certain thing, making thoughts. And somehow you think this apparatus that is designed to produce thoughts, what it produces, it's you. How? Somehow because it's been used by you, the you that is in there somewhere, we'll talk about it. You've been using it to do things for you. And somehow you've been bought into thinking what you're using to do something for you is actually you, because many things that you have used the brain to do has been beneficial to you. Doing math, learning things, you think the learning is you. You think the ability of doing math is you. You know, if you understand what I'm trying to say, is like saying the fact that you see something, that's you. It's an ability of the eyes that it can do. This has ability to see. But what it sees is not you. But you can use it to get that information, and information you get from hearing. What you hear is not you, but you have the ability to hear it. So hearing, what you're hearing is not you. You have the ability of using the brain's speciality to think things through or calculate something or figure out something, but what it's being done by the brain is not you. But somehow you think what is being done by the brain, which in case of intrusive thoughts is not something that you're involved, it's not something that you're using the brain to create. Brain itself is conjuring it up, these intrusive thoughts, that you're totally unaware of it. It's independent of you. You're oblivious to it, but yet what it produces, which you have nothing to do with it, you weren't even aware of it, pops up. You consider that you, and you get bamboozled, and you think the suggestion, thought, or the images that is showed up by the brain could be representing you or have anything to do with you, including your gender, if the thoughts are intrusive of this kind or that kind. So this is where we're gonna get to the crunch time, which is, I wanna ask you to come with me, stay with me, and let's examine which one of these makes sense to you, to understand how easily you can separate yourself from the things that are happening in the brain and never be bamboozled by the things that the brain does versus when you use the brain yourself. Hang on, I'll have a sip of my tea and we'll continue. So, the final part of our short discussion. Maybe this video will be put together as one piece or maybe in 3 different pieces. So it could be separate in that way. So here's the crunch time. We want to separate and notice what is what. Things that happens in the brain. Can we separate and clearly distinguish what is thought, what is when I am using the brain, the faculty of the brain, the apparatus, the tool, the equipment of the brain that I have rented from my factory. Think that you're a factory, you have purchased all these pieces, kidney, liver, eyes, ears, intestines, brain. They all are supposed to be doing something. So you can't be saying that any one of these equipment that you've purchased to create this factory is you. It's the whole factory. So where is the whole factory? Where's the boss of the factory? Where's the owner of that factory? That's what we want to try to find out, because mostly are duped to think the owner is the thought that appears in the head. And I want to examine something with you and help you to see what I want you to see. The brain has the capability of helping you to do certain functions. At the same time, if it's not helping you, in other words, if you're not using that equipment of your factory, the brain, if you're not using it, it on its own can have and continues and does all the time create certain products. It continuously produces what it's designed to produce, which is thought. This equipment, the brain that you bought, added to your factory to use to do whatever it is that you're supposed to accomplish in this life, constantly does on its own use its ability, makes thoughts. You also, because you're the owner of the factory, you're owner of this brain, you also use the brain for your usage. Like you want to calculate something, learn something, figure out something, design something, produce something, accomplish something. That's what you use the apparatus, the equipment, to create what it is that you want to create, that you think it will be useful to you, to what you want to accomplish. That's when you use the apparatus, the equipment, the tool of the brain that you have added to the collective tools, things that has made this factory, the you, the me. Now, when you are using this brain's ability, let's say in something simple, since I'm not going to be using this example for the religious purposes, I'm using it because most people in the world have used the apparatus of the brain to communicate with their God or whatever they believe, or let's call it that so it'll be easy, simple to deliver. My intention is not talking about religion is good or bad, or there is God or there is no God, none of that. Just one, because everybody has had that experience, I'm trying to use that to deliver what I want to say. So let's say when you want to, one of the things that you do with the brain, one of the uses that you have for the brain is when you want to do something with it. So you grab onto the ability of the brain and you do something with it. In this particular example, let's say you're going to be talking to God. You're praying, I want this, I want that, give me health, or give me success, give me, I don't know, whatever it is, that girl you want to get to know. You're praying, or, help my father, help my mother, and I hope all of them will be healthy and all. You're doing this praying, yeah? While you're having this communication, this praying, it's you using the brain to do something with it, to use its abilities to create something, to do something with it, which in this case is to talk to God, communicate, utter words. While you're doing that, which is you using the brain to do something with it, there is a watcher, observer, that is observing what you're doing. Just imagine right now you're talking to God, or you're trying to design something, or you're praying something, and while you're doing, you're aware that you are talking to God. You're aware that you are using abilities to have a communication or do whatever it is that you're engaged in doing. You're witness to this conversation with God, right? So you using the equipment of brain to do this communication, and then there is a watcher, a observer, a witness to this happening. There is an awareness to this communication happening with God that you're doing. That awareness is you. The observer, your witness to what's being done. That's you. When you're not using the brain is doing its own thing, which its specialty is to make thoughts. Because it has no values or understand any kind of a certain core principles or any certain way of value system, it conjures up whatever thought it can get a hold of, like whatever information that is out there floating around about anything in this world that's possibly has come across to your knowledge and form part of your consciousness, your knowledge, your know-how, through books or videos or cinema or publications or discussions on television, radio, or speakers, or school, or books, whatever it is. Anything, any products, any hypothesis, any lifestyle, all kind of lifestyles about anything, animals, humans, all that information is here, and brain grabs onto any of that and makes thoughts. Some of them based on whatever it simply conjures up, 80, 90,000 thoughts a day, which is all unbeknown to you. You're oblivious to them. It does its own thing. You didn't request these thoughts to be created, produced at all. You don't even know about it. It just pops up, does its own thing. And you're most of the day, you're not even aware of it. You're doing your own thing. But when the brain is creating intrusive thoughts, while we have explained, and the psychologists and psychotherapists and scientists have explained about the malfunction of the signaling system in the brain, such as caudate nucleus and the striatum, and all the combination of the communication between the orbital frontal cortex and all the other parts of the midbrain and so on, or stem brain, all of that, we've discussed that, and it's been discussed, scientifically proven that there's a malfunction that happens. And because of that, then OCD and intrusive thoughts are created unbeknown to you. You're oblivious to it, but it's created by the brain through the negative thoughts and anxiety and all that. We don't go deep into the roots of it, but due to these malfunctionings, intrusive thoughts linger and constantly loop in there. While intrusive thoughts are created by every single person on this earth, but when there is no malfunction, it comes in, you notice it, and then you go about your business, because automatically caudate nucleus shuts it down and you go about your business. But when there's a malfunction, this intrusive thought loops in there. And then you not knowing that this intrusive thought is not you, has nothing to do with you, this is not the me, you think the intrusive thought that the brain has created and popped up in your head, the images, the thoughts, the suggestion, is you. And we are here trying to prove to you that that has nothing to do with you. Intrusive thought is a production of the brain, that it's using its own ability to produce things that it's even not known to you, that you're oblivious to its production, to this activity, because it is not you who is using the brain's ability to create something, develop something, calculate something, as we talked about. It is the brain using its own capabilities and abilities, and through the malfunction is creating intrusive thought that is lingering, while intrusive thoughts are created in every human being's brain, but it's momentarily. But when the brain actually creates the intrusive thoughts, which you're oblivious to it, it's not of your wanting or designing or know-how or knowledge, but it's created, there is an awareness that runs to you and says, hey, there is an intrusive thought. You become aware of the existence of the intrusive thought. The intrusive thought itself had nothing to do with you creating it, because the brain created it, because it has a capability of creating thoughts. Brain is a thought manufacturing component. When it's using its own ability and this component creates thoughts that are intrusive, something makes you aware of the creation of the intrusive thought. Something runs to you and says, hey, there's an intrusive thought. Makes you aware, alarms you. That awareness is that witness again, that observer, which was the one that was observing you when you were using the brain talking to God. That observer, that awareness, that you're aware of what you're doing with the brain when you're talking to God, or that you become aware of that the intrusive thought has popped up and is in existence, is in operation, that awareness is you. Not the intrusive thoughts. Not when you're using the brain to do something with it. Only the witness that is witnessing to all these things happening, whether you're using the brain or the brain itself is creating thoughts, intrusive thoughts and whatnot, that awareness is you. So you're never intrusive thoughts, because intrusive thoughts is the production and the work of the brain itself, not your work when you're using the brain. It's the brain using itself and producing these, and you knowing that you're the awareness, not the intrusive thoughts, should set you free and separate you from the brain and brain's production and thoughts, and knowing that you're never thoughts. Thoughts are not you, you're not the brain, brain is not you, so you can never be intrusive thoughts, whether it's pedophilia, it's harm OCD, it's HOCD, homosexual OCD, any kind of OCD or any kind of intrusive thought, that is thought done by the brain, not by you. You're the awareness that becomes aware of the existence of intrusive thought, not that you are the intrusive thoughts. It's not implying to you, it cannot be implied to you, it's unrelated to you, it's irrelevant to you, it's meaningless to you, because you are only using the brain to do things that has to do with the values that you approve of, your core principles, your gatekeeper based on the meaningful values that you have, and you gauge all these intrusive thoughts against the gatekeeper, your core principle values, your wise advocates, and whatever it doesn't measure up, you're supposed to throw it out and diss it and ignore it, and to know that it's irrelevant to you, meaningless to you, and go on about your business. And that's how you know where you are, who you are, and what is what in the brain and its productions, and free yourself to have freedom of mind and freedom of thoughts and freedom of your sanity back. I'll talk to you soon. So you might say, how can I be sure that I'm the observer? I am the awareness. I'm the one who is the witness, the watcher. Let's talk about it. How can we be sure that we are the awareness, we are the observer, we are the watcher that makes the difference? We are separated from that production of the brain. We are separated from brain. We are not the brain. We are the watcher. We are the observer. We are the influencer. We are not the brain. Brain is not us. We are not the thought. Thought is not us. So whatever it conjures up is irrelevant to us. We actually are the selector and the observer of what it does, because whatever it produces, it does, is not us. It's different from us. We're different. We're separated from the brain and what the brain does. That's the key. For that, I want to bring your attention to an experiment that was done in quantum physics, which you can watch it on YouTube. I probably put the link in there somewhere in the description so you can watch it and understand what I'm trying to show, because it's definitely explains it better than I could here. But the short and the long of the experiment is that they put a gun that was projecting electrons through a slot. So when they tried to use this gun that was shooting out electrons through the slot that was in that metal screen, then on the wall behind the metal screen, it would create a one straight line showing where the electrons had hit. But when they created another slot, like the electrons now had to go through two slots, so you expect the electrons, having gone through the two slots, create two lines behind the metal screen that had the slots on. But they weren't. The electrons actually, when they were going through the two slots, they were creating interference with each other, and they were creating many lines. One line was the strongest light, strongest impressions, and then there were many other lines parallel to that. And they wondered, how could that happen? So they decided to put a measuring device, in other words, something that could witness what was happening closely, so when the electrons were going through the slots, it could see if they're interfering with each other, if they're colliding with each other. What happens that they have an effect of a waves instead of just electrons going through the hole. They would have a wave interference, like another experiments that they did that would result in such same pattern as it was creating now. So what they did, they put a measuring device, an observer, something that would witness and measure closely what happens to these electrons as they pass through those two slots. Because the scientists felt that they want to peek to see what's happening. Why is this created this way? There's only two slots, but there are so many patterns. So as soon as the scientists put an observer there and a measuring device, in other words, something that was watching it, which was outside of this whole experiment, it was an observer, a witness, a watcher, had nothing to do, it was not part of the experiment, it was just observing it. As soon as they put an observer there, the electrons behaved just as they should have. Only two lines. No more interference. It's like they changed their behavior because something was watching it, which was not part of what they were creating. In other words, the outside observer would influence and show that it is not part of. Clearly, that observer, that measuring device, was not part of the experiment, had nothing to do with it. That's why it would influence it so they would behave differently. And it was only two lines, no more pattern. The reason I mentioned this experiment for you, because here it is the way that you can see that you are not part of what the brain does, what the brain makes, the thought that brain produces. Why? Because you are going to be the observer of thoughts right now. What I want to ask you is to do this experiment with me to see that you are outside of what brain produces, meaning you're not part of what brain produces, the thought, the suggestion, the images. You have got nothing to do with it. You are the observer. And this is how we can check this out. I want you to focus on searching for thought in your brain. I don't know how you perceive your brain, how you imagine your brain, if you think it's all small rooms or different nooks and crannies, or there are, I don't know, different objects there that they're separating compartments, or separating the brain or turning it into different compartments. I don't know if you think of it as all neurons. I don't know if you think of it as rooms, that they have places that you can look for, search for thoughts, where the thoughts are, or they're being created, or however you think your brain is, you imagine it, look in there. Whether you're looking into rooms, looking into partitions, looking into compartments, looking into neurons, however it is, I want you to look for thoughts. In other words, become the observer of creation of thoughts. So search for thoughts in your brain. Just look for thoughts. I don't know what you see in your brain right now, but look for thoughts. Search for thoughts. Every corner of your brain, search for thoughts. While you're searching for thoughts, you can see you can't find anything. Nothing is happening. No thought is created. You're searching for thought. Whatever you imagine your brain is, you're looking for all corners, all part of that, wherever, however the brain is presenting itself to you in its shape. You're searching all corners of it, everywhere of it. And while you're doing that, brain behaves as there are no intrusive thoughts being produced. There are no thoughts whatsoever. It behaves properly. Huh? Try it. When you're observing, you're watching, you influence the brain and it changes its behavior, which tells you you're the observer, and the observer is outside, according to that quantum physics experiment that they just, that the observer is outside of the function and experiment that is being taken place. And right now that you're the observer looking for thought, the fact that the brain changes its behavior and no more intrusive thoughts is created, no more thoughts of any kind is created, it's just empty, you're looking for it, there's nothing there, nothing's created. That tells you that you are the observer, which means you're influencing the brain, which means you're outside of the brain and what the brain produces. Which tells you nothing that the brain conjures up and creates as form of thought is pertaining you, is including you. So that clearly shows you that you're outside of the experiments of the brain or the function or production of the brain. So whatever thought it makes, whatever topic could be intrusive thoughts, specifically intrusive thoughts about you're in denial, or you're not the gender you've always been, or you're changing, or anything of that sort. It's got nothing to do with you. It cannot be further from the truth, and it can never have anything to do with changing you, modifying you, threatening you of any kind, shape, or form. So hence, you've always been, are, and will always be whatever you've always been, whatever gender you were born as, and nothing can change that. Nothing can modify you. No matter how many intrusive thoughts and what kind it shows up, it never can have any effect on you, because you are separated from the brain's production, and you're not thoughts. Thoughts are not you, and you're not the brain, and brain is not you. So when you focus on that, and you can see that you're the observer, which means you're outside there, you're outside of the brain. You are separate, independent from the brain. You've got nothing to do with what it produces, which means you're not thoughts. Thoughts are not you. You're not the brain. Brain is not you. You're independent, hence you're independent of all intrusive suggestions, images, and thoughts. You are free from all these intrusive OCD, HOCD, whatever else suggestion that comes to your mind, comes to your head, and you become aware of it. You are the one who becomes aware of it, which means you're the observer. You're the one who's being reported to, which means you're totally separate from what the brain conjures up. On that note, you should stop worrying about any thought having anything to do with you, especially the intrusive thoughts. They're irrelevant to you. They're meaningless to you. You are who you've always been, always will be, are, and nothing can change that. Because thoughts is not you. You're not thoughts. Brain is not you. You're not the brain. You're you, and you is separated from brain. You're the observer. You're the watcher. You're the me, and you are the boss of brain and thoughts and everything else. You're the selector. And relax and enjoy your life. I'll talk to you soon.